Thanks, Meha, and a very warm and very warm welcome to all of you, and good afternoon from Nairobi, from wherever you're joining. My name is Zahir, and I'm very pleased to be with you today. I'll start off by just introducing who BDO is. A lot of you know BDO, you've been here before, but for those of you who are new, it's your first time. We're a global audit, tax, and advisory business. We're the fifth largest business globally. We have a global footprint. Last year, our turnover was $14 billion global. We have offices. If you look at the map on the right, everything shaded in dark gray is where we have permanent established offices. And in most of those offices, we offer a full range of services. We have over 115,000 professionals working in all those countries in 1,776 offices. And we have basically a representation and a presence in 166 countries. Next slide, please. Thanks. So BDO offers a comprehensive range of services, including audit and assurance, tax services, business outsourcing services, and also advisory services. So starting with audit assurance, we do the standard statutory audits of financial statements. We also do specialized project audits, audits of donor-funded projects, and any special purpose audits and reviews. We provide IFRS training and technical assistance, as well as other assurance-related services. And then in tax, we provide, again, a full range of services from the usual tax compliance, filing your returns, to tax advisory services, to tax reviews. We do tax audits and health checks. We have a particularly strong practice in transfer pricing. We provide advice on employment and expatriate tax, on corporate international planning, as well as on indirect taxes and customs duties. And we also provide tax opinions. I must add, we have a good, strong record of winning cases in the tribunal and basically negotiating with the KRA. So if you've got tax challenges, please do contact our tax experts. And then we also provide business services and outsourcing, which is for smaller and medium-sized businesses which want to outsource their accounting and bookkeeping functions. We can do that for you. We can also compile your statutory annual reports. We can provide a management reporting function. We also act as financial management agents, so looking after people's bank accounts and managing funds for them. We also provide fiscal management services. We can do your payroll for you. We also provide company secretarial services and admin and accounting services. And we can also provide legal services, if you don't have in-house lawyers. And then finally, the department where I sit, I head basically advisory. And within that, we've got internal audit and risk management. We've got management consulting services such as strategy and business planning. We provide a full range of corporate recovery services and business turnaround services. So, we are corporate doctors, really. If your business is ailing, come and see us, and we'll be able to provide you with insights on how you might get your business back on track. And then we provide a full range of corporate finance and transaction advisory services. In fact, in corporate finance and deals, transaction advisory services, BDO actually has been #1 globally for a number of years now in terms of just the number of deals that we're able to transact. And what this says is we're very much a people's person, because deal making is all about people to people, interacting with people, ensuring that you have their back and, that they completely trust what you're doing, because this is now their business, probably their livelihood that you're making transactions with. And we actually have the highest number of deals, which does say something very substantial about the quality of our people, that our people are, in fact, people persons. And then we also have forensic investigations and fraud investigations, which I directly head. We've got technology advisory, which is where Paul Macharia and his buddies sit. And then we've got business intelligence, and ESG sustainability services as well, and also data protection services. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now let me take you through what we've covered over the last two parts. This is part 3 of the 5-part webinar series. So as we all know, technology has and is an integral part of our daily lives, whether it's at home or whether it's in business, and the importance of cybersecurity cannot be overstated. With the exponential growth of digital platforms and the increasing sophistication of cyber threats, individuals and organizations must prioritize their cybersecurity measures. So let's quickly look at what we covered in our previous 2 parts. So part 1 of our series focused on preparedness for cyber attacks, specifically in non-governmental organizations or NGOs. We established the severe consequences of cyber attacks in that webinar. We understood that these incidences disrupt operations, they hinder mission fulfillment, and they can also cause long-term and long-lasting reputational damage, which can erode trust in an organization and its capacity to respond to crises as they happen. We examined data which illustrated the frequency and cost of these threats. An average of 2,200 cyber attacks happen daily, with one occurring approximately every 39 seconds. We reflected on the staggering report from Africa News in 2023, which noted that Kenya experienced a record 860 million cyber attacks. Yes, I'll repeat, 860 million cyber attacks in a single year. In the US, the financial repercussions were significant, with an average data breach costing $9.4 million. That's a billion shillings. We also discussed the broader economic impact, with cybercrime projected to cost the global economy $8 trillion by 2024. Daily, 30,000 websites are compromised, and small businesses constitute 43% of the targets, with 300,000 new malware instances created almost every day, and 92% of these being distributed via email. It takes an average of 49 days for these breaches to be detected. And then in our part 2 series, we focused on leveraging on PCI DSS standards for proactive cyber security management. We discussed ways in which organizations can implement proactive cybersecurity management. Among the top of the list was to conform the organization's best practices to the guidelines issued by proven and trusted standards, such as PCI DSS version 4, ISO 27001, and frameworks such as NIST SP 837 and also ISO 27110. And in our most recent webinar, we looked at the importance of entrenching cybersecurity into your risk management practices. And we covered in some detail the 12 requirements of PCI and the 6 principles of PCI DSS. We provided insights into the levels of compliance, merchant levels, and e-service provider requirements. And finally, we summarized and we took some questions at the end. So now let's talk about today's webinar. In today's webinar, we tackle the intersection between e-discovery and cybersecurity, where we will discuss navigating the complex relationship between legal discovery and cyber threats. We'll delve into the critical intersection of e-discovery and cybersecurity and what businesses must know. We'll explore how IT, cybersecurity, and e-discovery intersect, and impact businesses in the digital age. So starting with e-discovery or electronic discovery, this is the crucial aspect of digital investigation, seeking evidence in emails, communications, and data for litigation or criminal proceedings. That's what e-discovery is about. Understanding this landscape is essential for businesses to protect their digital assets, to ensure compliance, and mitigate risks. In this webinar, our speakers will share the latest trends, best practices, and strategies for managing IT and cybersecurity within the context of e-discovery. Whether you're a business leader, IT professional, or simply eager to enhance your knowledge, this webinar will equip you with practical insights for your professional journey. So without further ado, let me hand over to my colleague, Paul Macharia, and later on, Roger Muhia, to take us through what exactly is this e-discovery, cybersecurity, and then the convergence between the two. Paul, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Zahir. My name is Paul Macharia. I'm going to take you through the aspects of e-discovery. And first and foremost, we need to understand what e-discovery is all about. E-discovery is a form of digital investigation that attempts to find evidence in business communications and other data that could be used in litigation or criminal proceedings. You may ask yourself, why is e-discovery so important? When it comes to investigation, there are many sets and sources of information that require exploration. E-discovery software plays a critical role in finding the information, especially if it exists in a very large database. Corporations can utilize e-discovery during their internal investigations so as to find key data. And these tasks include identification, preservation, collection, processing, review analysis, and presentation of electronically stored information, also known as ESI. This guide provides links to at least the federal and state legislation, the court rules, and also the cases. And it also applies to books, articles, and papers, and draft interrogations that have been given as draft dispositions in court. From a forensic landscape, e-discovery serves as a critical function and a junction where legal requirements meet technological capabilities. In the realm of digital forensics, e-discovery serves as a source of electronically stored information, support legal cases, compliance audits, and also internal investigations. The key components of e-discovery include the digital evidence identification stage, and this is where forensic investigators use e-discovery tools to locate potential sources of evidence across a wide array of digital environments, including the cloud services, mobile devices, and even non-network storage systems. The second stage is data preservation and collection. So this is essential to ensure that the integrity of the digital evidence remains paramount. And the e-discovery in forensics employs techniques like forensic imaging, chain of custody documentation, so as to preserve the documentation in its original state. And this includes creating bit-by-bit copies of storage media, securing all the logs and actions. The third stage is the in-depth analysis and review, where advanced analytical tools and methodologies are applied so as to sift through vast quantities of data, identifying relevant evidence that may pertain to the case, including key searches, pattern recognition, and other data clustering methods so as to filter out irrelevant information. Finally, from a forensic perspective, reporting and production reproduction of reports is the culmination of e-discovery process in a forensic context. In such a case, it applies the preparation of findings specifically for legal proceedings. This involves generating reports that detail the evidence found, the methods used to discover and analyze it, and its relevance to the case. Evidence must be presented in a format that is understandable to a non-technical stakeholder, such as just a legal team and the court officials, while also adhering to evidentiary standards. There are key types of data that we look at when we go into e-discovery, and we start off with emails. So these are, everyone knows what emails, we use emails on a day-to-day basis. These are communications between parties, especially those involved in litigation, and may also include the review of attachments such as contract agreements and any incriminating evidence. The relevance of this is because emails can establish a timeline because they come with a predefined timestamp, and also they often are pivotal in cases that especially involve a lot of fraud, contract disputes, and also employment litigation. The second bit is the documents and files. These are the ones that exist within a workstation. And these are Word documents, spreadsheets, PDFs, etc., which can then reveal discrepancies, especially in financial reporting, if they were altered, and even with regards to intellectual property theft. We also look at logs and audit trails. These are server logs, access logs, transaction logs, which show the user activities. And the relevance of this is to help reconstruct events leading to a security breach. The cloud storage data, for those who are either employing private cloud on-prem, private cloud outsourced, or even the public cloud services such as Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, etc., is also a key area for us to get web artifacts, because the data stored here can reveal information, especially on unauthorized data access and the movement of data across the platforms. Finally, we go into deleted data because, as we all know, anything that is electronic or within the internet can never really be deleted. There's a saying that goes that the internet never forgets. So any deleted data, these are files, emails, records, or anything that has been deleted by a user, whether from the workstation, is relevant to us because this tells us what gives us insight into the investigations themselves. Now, a lawyer-centric workflow model that had been developed by Robert Lowthy. He's a professor in the University of Alberta, Department of Anthropology, as well as other attorneys, developed a workflow on the intersection between e-discovery and cybersecurity. Our focus today will be primarily under the identification stage, where the team split this into three major categories. Basically, the whole notices, conducting of interviews, and collection of information. And this became the most critical stage in the preparation of litigation material. This stage focuses more on observation activities, and they were considered towards the readiness of heading court. This is because in a digital era, all information primarily exists in electronic form, and a strong case of evidence must rely on methods that were not only used to collect, store, but also to preserve the data to ensure that the data can be got without reasonable doubt. Why is cybersecurity so important for e-discovery? As Zahir has mentioned, in our previous webinar, which occurred in around Q4 of 2023, we discussed the Kenya National Cybersecurity Incident, which is established by the Communications Authority, which indicated that there was a decline in Q3 from Q2 of 11.36% of the cyber threats that have been detected. Most recently, the CA has now issued a new advisory that shows the total cybersecurity threats that were detected in Q4 alone shot up by a total of 943%, which relates to 1.29 billion threats detected. In and around the same time, there were over 8 million cybersecurity threats advisories that were issued, which significantly was an increase of 44% from Q3 within the same year. The numbers speak for themselves. Cybersecurity is no longer an option, but a necessity for the individuals and organizations alike in today's interconnected world. Organizations are constantly hit with unknown cybersecurity risks, and there's no doubt that most of these risks occurred due to a human error. Discovery serves as a powerful tool for organizations to navigate the complex technical landscape with regards to cybersecurity incidents, ensure compliance, effective response, and also proactive security measures. We will look at this as we go through the case studies that we have lined up in the later stages of this webinar. Our webinar really focused on the critical importance of both e-discovery and cybersecurity. The increasing reliance on digital data in the business underscores the importance of both discovery in cybersecurity in today's digital landscape. This is why our webinar focused on this crucial, critical topic. The first focus area is the digital transformation aspect, because businesses are undergoing a rapid digital transformation with processes, communications, and transactions increasingly conducted and stored in digital formats. This digital shift has driven a lot of factors such as adoption of cloud computing, the proliferation of mobile devices, and also the rise of remote work and arrangement. Number two was because of the vast data in terms of data volume and complexity, because the volume of the data and the complexity of this data from emails to documents to very big databases that contain a lot of multimedia files are all stored, managed, and always retained by an organization. The legal and regulatory compliance landscape of things forms reason number three as to why we focused our webinar on e-discovery, because businesses are subjected to a myriad of laws and regulations governing the collection, storage, and use of electronic data. In Kenya, we have the Kenya Data Protection Act of 2019 and the consequent regulations of 2021. E-discovery plays a critical role in helping businesses meet their legal obligations by facilitating the identification, the preservation, and also the production of electronic evidence that is submitted for legal proceedings. We have already looked at the cybersecurity threat landscape, which is always constantly evolving. As you could see the difference between Q3 and Q4, where we have highlighted that the cybersecurity incidents went up by a total of 943%. And protecting digital assets and sensitive information from this environment is paramount towards safeguarding business operations, intellectual property, and also retaining customer trust. We also look at data breach risks, and these data breaches which represent a significant business risk, exposing financial losses, legal liabilities, and most importantly, reputational harm. When a data breach occurs, organizations must respond quickly and swiftly to ensure that you contain the incident, investigate the root cause, and mitigate the impact. E-discovery plays a very big role in retaining such evidence, such as access logs, network traffic data, and any of the compromised data files. And all these five culminate into one thing, which is business continuity and resilience. In today's digital landscape, businesses must prioritize business continuity to ensure uninterrupted operations in the face of cyber threats. The increasing reliance on digital data in businesses underscores the critical importance of both e-discovery and cybersecurity in today's landscape by implementing comprehensive e-discovery and cybersecurity strategies. Now we look at some of the challenges that are faced in e-discovery. Number one, we've already mentioned, is the volume and the variety of data. The sheer volume of data and the variety of data creates what we have as a headache: generate and store this data for purposes of e-discovery. The data complexity aspect also of this data is because some of the data can be highly complex, existing in a lot of varying formats, having massive metadata and different structures, especially in the databases. Data preservation and collection is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to e-discovery, because the evidence must be defensible and legally compliant and can uphold in a court of law. So we must ensure when we're collecting this data and preserving this data that we take into account that this has to be used in a court of law. And if there's any reasonable doubt in the way that the data was collected or was stored, then the case can be thrown out. The cost and resource constraint is a fourth risk or challenge, because discovery can be very costly and resource intensive, particularly for organizations which have a limited budget and also have limited staffing. It's associated with both the data collection, processing, hosting, reviewing, production, etc., and lead to a misbalance in the need for comprehensive e-discovery, especially if you have a very small budget. Data privacy and security is another challenge because you have to protect the privacy and security of electronic data, and this is the most paramount aspect of e-discovery. While conducting an e-discovery process, you must ensure that the data privacy and security aspects are completely dealt with to avoid additional lawsuits. Legal and regulatory compliance. So e-discovery is subject to a complex of evolving legal and regulatory compliance landscapes, like the Evolving Data Protection Act, and failure to comply with these obligations can result in legal sanctions and adverse judgment, as well as just reputational damage. Finally, the biggest challenge is the tool technology and tool complexity, which involves e-discovery. This is because managing and integrating these big technologies or emerging technologies with the tools that are available is very complex and requires specialized training and expertise. Addressing these challenges requires proactive planning, collaboration between legal and IT teams, investment in technology, and adherence to best practices. How can cybersecurity incidents trigger an e-discovery process? So we will look at some case studies in the coming slides, but before that, let's first understand how cybersecurity incidents can trigger e-discovery process. The first aspect is a data breach investigation, which you will see a lot in our case studies. When a cybersecurity threat occurs, organizations must typically conduct investigations to determine the scope, and these investigations often involve collecting and analyzing a wide range of digital evidence. As part of these investigations, organizations may need to preserve and produce this data as part of legal proceedings. Number two is on the legal and regulatory obligations. So many jurisdictions have laws that require organizations to investigate and report cybersecurity incidents, particularly those involving the unauthorized access or disclosure of personal information. For example, here in Kenya, the Central Bank of Kenya requires all banks to submit monthly reports and quarterly reports of all data breaches or any cybersecurity incidents that have occurred. Litigation and legal discovery. So data breaches often result in a lot of litigation. And in the context of litigation, e-discovery becomes crucial for both the plaintiff and also the defendant. So for you to gather the information that can be produced as relevant electronic evidence first to support the claim or the defense. The other thing that comes up when it comes to how cybersecurity incidents trigger e-discovery process is to ensure the integrity and accessibility of electronic evidence, and organizations must take steps to preserve this data. The security incident can trigger e-discovery process by necessitating all or even more. Organizations must probably have e-discovery capabilities and procedures in place so as to manage the intersection between the cybersecurity, the legal requirements, and event of a data breach or cybersecurity event. Let's look at some of the case studies that we have highlighted as part of our presentation today. So the first one, we will look at some of the successful companies who have managed to get the intersection between cybersecurity and discovery. The first company we look at is Target. It's a corporation, and this occurred in 2013. And they experienced a massive data breach that compromised the personal and financial information of almost 1 million customers. Following the breach, Target implemented their robust e-discovery processes, identified the root cause, and also gathered enough evidence for litigation and regulatory inquiries. The second one is JP Morgan Chase, who suffered a cyber attack also around 2014. And this compromised the accounts of millions of customers. In response to this particular breach, JP Morgan Chase conducted a thorough e-discovery investigation and analyzed electronic evidence. This enabled them to quickly assess the scope of the breach, enhance their cybersecurity defenses, and also improve on the incident response procedures to prevent future attacks. The third successful case is FireEye. So there was an investigation by Mandiant on FireEye that occurred in December of 2020. The security firm FireEye disclosed that it had been targeted in a sophisticated attack, resulting in the theft of its red team tools. These are the tools that are used by other companies, or they have been implemented by other companies to detect cyber security incidents. So FireEye promptly launched this internal investigation because this has to be an internal attack, and they involved law enforcement agencies and the cybersecurity experts so as to identify the threat actor and contain that particular incident. The last case we look at is Adobe Systems, a litigation that occurred in 2015, where they had experienced a data breach and compromised the personal details of millions of users, including usernames, passwords, and even credit card details. In the subsequent litigation, Adobe successfully navigated the intersection of e-discovery and cybersecurity by implementing comprehensive data preservation and collection processes, conducting forensic investigations both internally and getting someone who was externally related so that it could have the independence. And they were able to defend against legal claims and then also settle their class action lawsuits, which then enabled them to retain and restore customer trust. Those are some of the examples of the companies who have successfully done it. Now let's look at some of the companies who have not been so successful. The first one is Equifax, and this data breach occurred in 2017, where they suffered a breach that exposed personal information of over 147 million individuals. The breach occurred due to a failure in a known patch of a known vulnerability that had already been alerted to Equifax with regards to their systems. And this allowed cyber criminals to exploit the vulnerability and exfiltrate a lot of sensitive data. So Equifax faced criticism for its inadequate e-discovery and cybersecurity practices, which included delays in identifying and disclosing the breach, insufficient data encryption measures, and ineffective incident response tools. As a result, Equifax incurred a major financial loss. They also were imposed regulatory fines. They had to settle a lot of legal suits, and they suffered reputational damage, which has never been recovered to this day. The second one is Sony Pictures Entertainment, and this was very interesting. In 2014, they experienced a devastating cyber attack that resulted in the theft and disclosure of sensitive corporate data, internal communications, and to the extent that there were unreleased films, such as Wolverine, for those who can remember. The breach was attributed to a group of hackers in North Korea that exposed Sony Pictures to legal and a lot of regulatory scrutiny. And they faced challenges in managing e-discovery and cybersecurity efforts, leading to delays in both the data breach notification and also the renting of these films which were to be released, and to make them a lot of money. They existed now in the black market. That is Uber. So most of us have Uber installed on our phones. And in 2016, this particular ride-hailing company suffered a data breach that exposed information of over 57 million users and drivers. Some of us who had Uber accounts at that time, most likely your data had been part of the breach. Instead of promptly disclosing the breach, Uber decided and attempted to cover this incident by paying off these hackers to delete the stolen data and keep the breach a secret. Uber's failure to adequately manage their cybersecurity efforts, which include also concealing the breach, led to legal and regulatory investigations, significant fines, and also reputational damage. This company lacked transparency, and accountability. And this exacerbated the consequences of the breach and eroded trust among a lot of stakeholders. But with regards to stakeholders, the biggest one is Yahoo. And these are a series of data breaches that occurred between 2013 and 2017. And they occurred where billions of users' information was compromised in a data breach. So the breach, which was attributed to state sponsor actors, it has never been disclosed which involved the theft of user account details, email addresses, and other sensitive data, such as images and videos. So Yahoo faced a lot of criticism for delaying the disclosure, and again, it exposed their inadequate cybersecurity measures, which included weak encryption protocols and ineffective incident response procedures. Yahoo's failure to effectively manage the e-discovery resulted into regulatory investigations again, legal actions, and then a decline in user trust. This ultimately led to a significant devaluation of the business when they were being acquired by Verizon. These are just some of the examples that highlight the critical importance of effectively managing the intersection between e-discovery and cybersecurity. And by implementing robust discovery processes, leveraging on cybersecurity practices, and fostering collaboration between the legal team, IT team, and the cybersecurity teams, the businesses mentioned here have enhanced their resilience towards cyber threats. Those who are successful had leverage on all three teams. So some of the key takeaways and what we learned from these case studies is that e-discovery can play a crucial role in uncovering evidence of cybersecurity events and incidences, which are email communications, system logs, metadata, network traffic, and so much more. We also learned that collaboration between legal, IT, and cybersecurity teams is also very essential in effectively managing the intersection between e-discovery and cybersecurity. The reason why collaboration between these three teams is so important is because we bring in an element of understanding the legal and regulatory requirements, and this is by the legal teams who are responsible for understanding the legal landscape within a specific jurisdiction. Identifying and preserving electronic data is the role of the IT teams, and this is a critical role because they identify what evidence to preserve and what is relevant towards the cybersecurity incidents. Collaboration between legal and IT teams ensures that data preservation efforts are conducted in a defensible and legally compliant manner, in the integrity and admissibility of this information in electronic evidence form. Implementing strong controls is the role of cybersecurity teams, and they are tasked to ensure that they protect the digital assets, and the collaboration with legal and IT teams ensures that security measures are designed to support the discovery process. These include encryption, access controls, incident response procedures, and others that we will mention as part of this webinar. There's also the key area where it's how to respond to security incidents and legal requests. In the cases of Yahoo and also Equifax, we've seen that because of they're trying to conceal the breaches that occurred, they suffered with regards to legal and cases that came their way. So it's important that because of the intersection between legal, IT, and cybersecurity, the end user, who's the staff, who's your day-to-day staff, the most important thing is training and awareness. So these three teams can come up with training material which is specific to all the staff within the organizations to ensure that there's proactive cybersecurity management and also understanding the rights and limits of the law. If some of the organizations in that list follow some of these guidelines, the situations will be different. So let's look at some of the mitigation strategies that follow the e-discovery process. The strategies for cybersecurity management are ensuring that you conduct regular security assessments, ensuring that you conduct employee training and awareness, and this is often because the employee is your first line of defense. The need for network segmentation. So in the case of Sony Pictures, because they had a flat network, all the resources were compromised because once you get into the flat network, it's like getting into a warehouse and there are no special rooms. So if they had implemented network segmentation, then they would have been able to safeguard various entities and reduce the risk. Also, the need to employ multi-factor authentication on all platforms. This is because implementing MFA with multi-factor authentication not only adds an additional layer of security, but also provides multiple forms of verification before you can access sensitive systems or data. Last but not least is incident response and planning. So once an incident has occurred, it is important for you to develop and maintain an incident response plan, which is crucial to effectively manage security incidents, minimizing downtime, and mitigating the impact on business operations, as well as upholding your brand and retaining most of your customers. In making these simple strategies, companies can able to design a concrete incident response plan. Let's look at some of the potential vulnerabilities that occur. Some of the common threats are phishing attacks. So phishing attacks are deceptive emails or messages that are used to trick individuals into revealing sensitive information, such as login credentials or anything that can be storing critical evidence. There's also malware, and this is a software, basically malicious software, which can compromise the security of evidence that has been gathered. These insider threats, and these are employees, especially trusted individuals within an organization, who intentionally or even unintentionally compromise the evidence, either for their financial gain or to test net data. Also, the distributed denial of service attack, where attackers overwhelm your system, causing a lot of disruption. And if you do not have an incident response plan in place, you can be able to access your data in all that chaos. Last but not least is ransomware, which is just malicious software that encrypts system files, and the attacker can then demand you pay them for decryption. And if the payment is not paid, either the data remains inaccessible or it also is disclosed to the public. Some of the common vulnerabilities that we've seen in those cases was there are some instances that had weak authentication and access controls. In such cases, it's inadequate authentication mechanism and poorly managed access controls. Unencrypted data transmission, so especially on a network layer, and insecure network configurations. These were poorly configured networks and they exposed unauthorized access. We also see a case of lack of security awareness because there were some employees, especially those who chose to cover up a specific breach, were not aware that this would be they would be liable and there would be legal implications for them to not to disclose the breach. There are third-party risks, and these are especially if you rely on third-party service providers such as Google, Microsoft, and there are weaknesses that exist in those security in those environments, then they also exist in your data. There's inadequate incident response planning, and also the biggest issue is storage of unnecessary data. So storing more data than you have basically increases the potential of impact of a data breach. So that's why the Data Protection Acts require that you adopt a data minimization approach. Proactive security management. So let's look at best practices for integrating proactive security measures. Integrating proactive security measures into your compliance efforts is crucial for enhancing the overall security posture of any organization. The best practices for incorporating proactive security measures into e-discovery go beyond the mere compliance requirements so as to enhance the overall security. So we have 15 elements that we have included here, and this includes continuous risk assessment. So never stop trying to identify the potential threats and the potential vulnerabilities that exist within your system. Next is the security by design. Whenever you're implementing any system, you ensure that all your coding practices are compliant with the security aspects of development and having a system development life cycle, which then decommissions old systems and also old data. You need to perform regular scanning and vulnerability scanning, and this ensures that all the systems and networks are scanned on a regular basis, and in some cases, if you have the resources, on a full-time continuous 24/7 basis, just to address vulnerabilities promptly and reduce the risk of exploitation. Over and above that is to attempt to hack your own organization, and in this case, from an ethical perspective. So ethical hacking, which is the process of penetration testing, is to simulate a real-world attack, which then would identify some of the potential weaknesses both in your environment and in your incident response plan. You need to ensure that you have implemented encryption across the board. So strong encryption mechanisms for data, both in transit and also at rest, should be employed by every organization. This includes encrypting the data, assigning sensitivity rules to data, and this is confidential, public, internal, etc. Access controls and having the least privilege principle. So the least privilege principle is where you enforce giving the utmost minimum privileges to any particular user, ensure that they have minimum level of access to any of the functions within a particular system or within a particular environment or even a network, so as to reduce their ability to perform unnecessary functions. You need to conduct security awareness training, and this is to all your employees so as to educate them about the new emerging risks, and having an informed workforce is better to equip the organization to respond to security threats from anywhere that they may occur. Incident response planning and monitoring of logs is very important because you can implement this using security event information and event management tools. These are the CM tools, which proactively detect and respond to security incidents even without you having to be on your workstation. You need to conduct regular internal and external audits so as to assess and identify any areas of improvement. So from an external audit perspective is to conduct an IS audit or information systems audit, comprehensive, which also gives them the bird's eye view of how the internal processes are working. With regards to ensuring third-party risk management, you need to also vet your third-party vendors. So not to just assume that they have met the minimum security requirements, you can ask them for proof or that their systems have been either ethically hacked or ethically tested. And if they cannot provide that, then you should really question your third party. You need to document your security policies. This is because the documents will always outlive the people who developed them. So once you ensure that all employees are aware of these policies and you ensure that you conduct a lot of regular communication via emails on awareness and a lot of training. You need to regularly update your security controls. You always stay informed on all emerging threats within the environment and ensure that your environment and your landscape has taken into account any new challenges as to maintain resilience towards these evolving threats. By incorporating these proactive measures into an e-discovery effort, organizations can go beyond the mere compliance checkboxes and then therefore build an adaptive security program which effectively counters e-discovery. Lucky for us, there are some tools which we can implement to this effect. And I'd like to go through some of the tools and technologies that would promote e-discovery. So first and foremost is the importance of implementing firewalls. So firewalls are both an edge firewall and also a DMZ firewall, which counters and monitors network traffic, and it can be coupled up with an intrusion detection and prevention system. An example of firewalls that you can implement includes Cisco, Sophos, PFSense, also Checkpoint. But not only having a firewall is to have firewall policies implemented. From an intrusion detection and prevention perspective, you need to ensure that whatever device you're using, whether it's a software-based IDS or hardware IDS, is to ensure that it always tracks system activities for malicious activities and especially policy violations. Some examples of some are Snort. If you're on a Cisco environment, you can use Cisco Firepower. If not, it's Suricata. You need to ensure file integrity monitoring tools are implemented by default, and this ensure that and detect changes to various critical system files and configurations, because these are usually the entry point for malicious actors. On a vulnerability scanning perspective, you can implement tools such as Nessus and OpenVAS, which regularly scan your environment to ensure that there are no threat actors who are just lingering within the communication channels so as to probably attack you with a man-in-the-middle attack. Encryption solutions such as OpenSSL, BitLocker, and others such as Symantec endpoint encryption tools and help you to protect the data both at rest and also while in motion. Secure sockets, layer, and TLS, so ensure that you have the latest versions of SSL certificates implemented both on your websites or any access points which are web-based. And your TLS, you ensure you're not using 1.1 or 1.2, and you're using a higher version of TLS. Log management tools, and these are the security information and event management tools, which are separate from your network and from your database, which then just conduct a third-party scan. And these are very vital to ensuring that for e-discovery purposes, they give a chronological occurrence of all the events. Some tools such as Splunk and IBM, the QRadar, are tools which you can implement to this effect. With regards to access control and identity management, the most important tool is an Active Directory. So this can create high-level access control, and then you can go down and drill further and manage the permissions so as to ensure the principle of least privilege is efficiently implemented. Some things that we overlook, and maybe sometimes people just assume them, are antivirus and anti-malware solutions. So likely with the newer versions of Windows, they come with a robust version of Windows Defender, which then takes care of the Windows environment. However, to go a notch higher, you need to implement antivirus and anti-malware tools which are outside the Windows environment and are generated or developed outside the Windows environment so as to then protect your organization or your workstation from malware. Examples include Sophos endpoint protection, Symantec endpoint protection, McAfee. The list is very long. Web application firewalls are also very important, especially for those who are employed a web-based environment. And some tools such as Imperva, which is a web application firewall. There's Wazoo. There's also Big IP, Application Security Manager. This can then help you to protect those web-based applications from various attacks and those that can compromise data. Last but not least is to ensure you have centralized patch management. And in the case of Sony, the issue was a known patch vulnerability that existed within the system. They had already been given a patch by the owner of the system, but they had not yet implemented it. If you centralize patch management, you ensure that all softwares are up to date and all vulnerabilities that have been detected by the developer are actually taken into account and to ensure that this is automated. It is important for organizations to carefully select and implement any of these solutions by combining 2 or 3 solutions if the budget allows, so as to ensure that the cybersecurity aspect is looked after and the ability to perform e-discovery processes can be enhanced. So in summary, as we come to the end of our webinar today, I'd like to bring you to some of the key best practices with regards to the intersection between e-discovery and cybersecurity. You need to have a proactive approach to cybersecurity. So ideally, you need to take cybersecurity seriously and implement strong and robust security measures. You need to also conduct regular risk assessment and always staying informed about the emerging threats and vulnerabilities. By investing in cybersecurity preparedness, organizations can easily reduce the likelihood and impact of security incidents. Effective incident response is also another key takeaway, and you need to ensure that you have the plans ready to ensure swift and coordinated response to cybersecurity incidents. Transparency and accountability is very important, and you need to prioritize transparency and accountability with regards to cybersecurity governance and communication. You need to promptly disclose any security incidents that have occurred to any of the affected individuals, the regulatory authorities, and any other stakeholders who you report to, first to provide a timely update on the remediation efforts and also document the lessons learned. There is need for cross-functional collaboration. This is between legal, IT, and cybersecurity teams to effectively manage the intersection of e-discovery and cybersecurity. This also creates a clear line of communication, establish regular meetings and checkpoints to ensure that roles and responsibilities are clearly defined and all staff are aware. Compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. You need to stay abreast with the relevant legal and regulatory requirements that govern your cybersecurity and e-discovery framework within your own jurisdiction and also within neighboring jurisdictions where you might be sharing information. You need to work closely with the legal counsel so as to get all the legal obligations. You assess all your regulatory risks and therefore implement strong policies and procedures. You need to ensure continuous improvement and learning. So adopt a culture of continuous improvement and learning, especially from a cybersecurity perspective and also from an e-discovery practice. Conducting post-incident reviews and debriefings on areas of improvement, ensuring you capture all the lessons learned from that incident, can encourage staff to pursue various methods of countering these incidents as they occur. You can also ensure that you invest in your staff and ask them to or provide resources for them to pursue professional developmental opportunities and training sessions with regards to cybersecurity, so as to keep abreast with the industry practices, the best practices within the industry and the emerging trends. Last but not least is investment in technology and training. So invest in the state-of-the-art cybersecurity technologies to ensure that you enhance your threat detection, incident response, and data protection capabilities. Provide regular training to your staff and awareness programs to employees on cybersecurity best practices, data handling procedures, incident response protocols, and any other protocols that you've implemented within your organization. Having empowered and well-trained employees always is and forever will be the first line of defense. With that, I thank you, and I want to hand over back to our moderator, Meha, take us through some of the questions in the chat and open the floor to more questions that may have occurred.
Thank you all for attending this webinar, and of course, thanks to our expert panelists, Paul Macharia and Zahir Sheikh. Today, we explore the critical intersection of information technology, cybersecurity, and e-discovery. Your active participation and engagement have made this webinar valuable learning experience for all. And we apologize for any inconvenience caused by the choppy sound during this webinar. Technical glitches can occur, but we appreciate your patience and understanding. And now we can begin the Q&A session. Again, thank you for being patient with the technical issue, but hopefully it will get better, and we guarantee in the next webinar, the glitch won't be there. So the first question is, how are emerging technologies like AI and machine learning transforming the e-discovery landscape, particularly in relation to cybersecurity?
Right. So the emerging technologies such as AI and machine learning both have a positive and also a negative effect towards cybersecurity. Most recently, you may have heard in the news that there was a threat actor who had no coding experience whatsoever, had the assistance of ChatGPT to gain access to a financial institution. So a mere individual who has no experience in hacking managed to just use AI to train or to learn how to infiltrate an entire financial institution. On the flip side of it, AI has been embedded within some of these cybersecurity tools. So, for example, security incident management tools have behavioral analysis, which heavily borrows from AI. So if let's say you have a staff member who's trying to access a specific file that they have never accessed before or is not part of their department, and you have gone easy with regards to access control, the AI will then block this person from gaining access to certain information until it is pre-authorized by the person who put the information there to start with. So there are two aspects of it. There's the good and the bad. So the intersection with regards to now e-discovery, in the first instance, the AI also helped this particular actor to also delete some of the logs. So if you have a separate system which is keeping all the logs or tracking all your security incidents on a separate system, then you use that other system, because this other one has been compromised. Use that other system to gain your discovery information, which then goes into the litigation process.
Thank you, Paul. The next question is, can you recommend any specific e-discovery tools or software that are particularly effective in a high-threat cybersecurity environment? Any open source recommendations?
That's very interesting. Not to act like this is a sponsored event, I would not disclose some of these names, but I'd request that you reach out to me directly via email outside this platform, because this recording will be posted on our social media and also on YouTube. I cannot then give names or any recommendations to that effect. I just request that you reach out to me directly via email and I will be able to respond to that.
Thank you, Paul. We will type in his email in the chat and you can always reach out to him for any of your questions regarding cybersecurity. And again, thank you all for attending, and I'd like to pass it on to Zahir.
Thanks again, Meha and Paul, for that very intriguing presentation, which I think is very relevant in today's series. So let me just give you a taster on what's coming next. We continue with our webinar series, which is part 4, how cloud-based ERPs drive business growth. Cloud-based ERPs, these systems, they are revolutionizing the way businesses operate, and they drive growth in those businesses. Businesses are leveraging these cloud-based ERPs. Organizations can now access advanced features and capabilities without the need for extensive infrastructure investments. These systems offer scalability, they offer flexibility, and they offer accessibility, allowing businesses to adapt quickly to changing market conditions and to scale their operations as needed. So this is on 4th of April. We're going to talk about how cloud ERPs provide robust security and data protection measures, how they ensure confidentiality and integrity of sensitive information, and how cloud ERPs empower businesses to drive innovation, improve their productivity, and also achieve sustainable growth in today's competitive landscape. And then in May, we've got our final session until June. We'll come up with more after that. And that is going to be an executive overview of how to improve cyber security costs cost effectively, how to bring them down, how to control it. Because this is something that can escalate very, very quickly in your IT department. So don't miss these forthcoming webinars. Next slide, please. Right, we've also got for you, starting next week actually, a whole series on data protection, a 5-part series on data protection. Now, some of you might remember that we actually had a 5-part series on data protection last year as well. Well, some of this may be a little repeat, but a lot of it is brand new. So do tune in. The first webinar is going to be on the 20th of February. Which is the role of data protection officers in East Africa. And then in March, we're going to talk about your compliance journey, how far you've gone at the moment in terms of data protection and benchmark that against what's required. In April, we're going to talk about data protection for small and medium enterprises. And then in March, we're going to talk about emerging technologies for data protection. And in June, we're going to talk about cross-border data transfers, challenges, and solutions. We're also working on a comprehensive webinar series. We just included our series on the fraud investigation forensic aspects. And our next series, just to give you a taster, is going to be on industry fraud. So what we did in the first part of our series was talk about how fraud can be investigated, the legal aspects of fraud, and so on and so forth. Now what we're going to do is actually going to go industry by industry. So we'll look at some of the more applicable industries. Obviously here we'll look at manufacturing, the kind of fraud that is in manufacturing. We'll look at government. We'll look at construction. We'll look at hospitality, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So stay tuned for those series as well. At the moment, team and I are working on developing those series, and those will be coming shortly. So just one pace. Thank you all for participating, and I'm going to hand over now to Neha.
Right. So, before we go, we want to bring to your attention some of our key consulting portfolio, basically under the BDO cybersecurity. So we have implemented various services within the technology advisory department, and we are happy to provide you with any services that you see on your screen right now. Key important to note with regards to today's training is cyber resilience for medium-sized companies, data protection and privacy management, implementation of security operations center, technology infrastructure and application security, vulnerability assessment, penetration testing exercises, cyber incident response and crisis center, which is an outsourced service, and our cyber academy, basically C-level cyber awareness. Thank you all, and wishing you a good afternoon. And for those who are still in the morning, wishing you a good morning as well. Thank you all. I'll end this webinar here.